All right, thank you guys for joining us today for our farm update. So I'm Nathan Johanning. I'm Extension Educator with the University of Illinois Extension based in Waterloo. So the goal of this was just to give guys a little bit of thoughts as far as it's fall, it's cover crop planting season. What are some things we need to consider? Just kind of field some questions of the moment, and what are some last minute resources as guys are making decisions, crops are coming off, what am I going to do if they don't have a plan in place? Give you guys some ideas of what you can do and what's manageable and what's not, so hopefully you have success. Why cover crops? We all know that we're looking to improve our soil, manage our nutrients, and there's tons of different options there. I'm not going to labor in this. I think the line that I like to use with any of this is that cover crops are just another tool we can use in crop management. It's no different than the herbicides, the seed traits, anything else. That's what you need to consider that, and don't, especially for people getting started, don't get too tied up that it has to be this complete paradigm shift in your production. Yes, it can be that, but you can just look at it as another tool in that toolbox of different things that you have at your disposal. So challenges of cover crops, of course, choosing them, getting them planted, planting into them and managing them, the cost and termination, those are all things. Of those, I think today, because of the time of year, I want to hit on those first two, the choosing one, getting them planted, and some of the nuances of fall. We can certainly field some termination and other questions, but I really want to kind of focus on things that we need to be thinking about right now, at least as far as their action. But certainly getting them terminated helps you choose them, because you want to know what tools you're going to have at your disposal come springtime. So cover crop planting, there's tons of ways to obviously plant, and I don't have all the trademark name brand, how to do it, but certainly there's lots of air seeders out there. Drilling, time and time again, for consistent stands across various weather conditions, drilling is always seems to be the most consistent. So that's still probably the number one recommended. However, there's lots of surface broadcast applications, whether it be within a standing crop, after crop, and other situations that are definitely very effective, especially depending on the species you're working with. So looking at that, if you don't have access to drill and you want to go into, say, a standing crop, corn, most cornfields, especially in southern Illinois, are probably nearing harvest, so we're probably just going to hold out on that. On soybeans, if you are interested in doing that, there's been some different information. Some guys are actually saying trying to hit spreading cover crop seeds across soybeans before you get to before you have complete leaf drop, so that way you can get maybe when you hit yellow, or at least partial leaf drop, so that way the soil can, or the seeds, excuse me, can land down on the soil, but then you get a little bit of leaf litter on top of them to help hold some moisture and things like that. So that's one concept. Certainly you don't want to get seeding too early if you have, say, double crops. If you have seeding too early and there's no light, that can limit things. Also, as you get closer to harvest, I would say having those seeds just land on top of a whole bunch of soybean leaves on a dry year could maybe make or break where you're at. In this year, at the moment in 2020, that seems like dry is where we're at least in where I'm at in southern Illinois. So obviously if you broadcast, in some cases using some kind of a light vertical tillage tool, is an option to help get a little better seed to soil contact, even just like a rolling harrow or something. Maybe this is my no-till kind of purist side. I try to shy away from getting too tillage heavy, because we don't want to disturb the soil too much in that process. Although certainly I would not argue with someone that said that some of our drills do a fair amount of shallow tillage as we go through the field. So just making sure we're trying to keep tillage fairly shallow, and certainly just surface broadcasted for some on top of residue crop residue. The thing that comes to mind that we've done on our farm some is just broadcasting cereal rye over corn stubble for next year's soybean crop. Not running any kind of tillage, not laying down the stalks or anything. And you know, we've ended up with, and that's with some moisture, some good cereal rye stands, just broadcasting over the corn stubble. So some other thoughts as you're putting together your mixes, make sure that you're balancing seeding rates based on, you know, if you're looking at what that crop would be seeded together or alone, excuse me, looking at reducing those rates back as you're seeding them separately. And I think we've seen in some cases more isn't always better. You don't have to have 100 pounds of some mix per acre to have a good stand. You don't necessarily have to have a dense jungle in your field that can be, you know, problemsome in the spring. So, you know, certainly I'm the conservative type that tends to kind of draw folks down a little bit and for some of their seeding rates a little, not because I don't want them to have good biomass, but I want them to have success and happiness, especially if they're not sure of their planting equipment and how it'll handle heavy residue. If you can handle it and that's your game and you want to tackle really heavy residue and you can get through it, that's great. But if you're new to it, the last thing I want is you to get a bad taste in your mouth because you created a ton of great biomass, but you just don't have the means in the spring to deal with it. Planting date is a big role in performance, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Seed placement. This is something that I've experienced has taught me too, is that we need to balance our seed sizes to a certain extent. And this is not an extensive list, but our larger seeds, which could be things like our grains, vetch, winter peas, really tend to do better and can be planted a little deeper. Some of the grains will do fine on top of the surface and with some moisture, and even vetch and winter pea. But some of the legumes surface seeded, I know, is a lot more weather dependent. The grains, the rye and wheat, seem to be a little more durable to differences in weather, and they'll hold out for some rain. Sometimes our legumes will get a little rain and they'll maybe try to germinate or swell and then don't make it. So, but those can be planted a little deeper. Our clovers are, you know, crimson, balanza, berseem, red clover, any of those, annual ryegrass, and I'm sure there's others beyond that. Those are some of the most popular ones. They really need to be planted very shallow. So if you have a mix of that and you dump it in the big box of the drill and you plant it 1 inch deep, those species are going to really struggle. So if you aren't satisfied with your performance of a variety, think about seed placement. So this is where, in some cases, broadcasting things, if you have a drill with a small seed box, that is awesome for clovers, even for ryegrass, because it's usually putting it on the surface right before that press wheel, so it gets a little seed to soil contact, and then you know, things grow well from there. You don't have those clover seed too deep, because I will even confess myself to having issues even when you're trying to set the drill. If you're drilling these, getting some of those clovers too deep, and if the weather isn't ideal, that can make or break your success completely on that. Cover crop hardiness is something to keep in mind. So as we're kind of in that cusp now in Southern Illinois, I think we can still get away with some of our frost or freeze sensitive things, maybe a little bit of oats or oilseed radish, but that window is quickly kind of disappearing as we really do get to the point where a frost or freeze is going to be imminent fast enough that we're not going to gain much benefit out of those things. I think now, late September, we're all right. For somebody like, say, putting in some oats or some radish, but as we start to get a little later, especially past October 1, I think we're really limiting that, and that's even being a little gracious. Probably even you know, about now is probably the end of getting good growth. Of course, all dependent on when that frost actually comes. If we have a warm October, November, then it might be just fine. So, but certainly our winter hardy grains are good up all the way, you know, most of those through even November. Even some of our other things, even annual ryegrass with decent planting, we can get away with if we keep it up on the soil surface and get some moisture, you know, planting it a little bit later. a lot of our clovers and vetches, it really is good. We can get them established, but they just have a slow start. So I'd like to get those at least in the next few weeks. So by early October is kind of my general gut reaction. I've pushed some of those a little bit later than what sometimes we recommend, and some of the guides say, but certainly if we get later into later October and we get a cold snap, those species really just struggle to establish, and depending on your specific soil conditions, you can get some that don't survive the winter. In some cases, maybe don't even come up. So another thing that comes up a lot I wanted to address this time of year is cereal rye versus wheat. Which should you use? So where I'm at here in Southern Illinois and near Waterloo, we're in popular wheat country, so lots of wheat grown in the area. So there's a little bit of apprehension about cereal rye. So, and I've seen both sides of this. I've experienced it. I know and understand that. So I just wanted to talk towards a couple of those points. Cereal rye, I think, is between wheat, is a more suitable cover crop by the facts I have listed here. It does have some extra weed suppression with some allelopathy to help suppress weeds. Great at building soil. It has grows taller, so it has more biomass than what some of our other grains, especially wheat, does. Has a deeper rooting capacity, which also lends it to be a better nitrogen scavenger. And so you have a less need for some supplemental N to get good cover crop growth. And it's very cold hardy. I think it has an edge on wheat and other covers, so it'll allow you to plant a little bit later and still have a good stand, especially as we get into late October and in November. So wheat, I think it's just a little bit more moderated on some of those facts. It doesn't have the allelopathy. It does produce biomass, but certainly not as much. Being it's not as deep as root system, it doesn't tend to get as much nitrogen. So whenever you put rye and wheat beside each other, especially in an area where there may be a little bit starved for nitrogen, I feel like the rye will outperform it. I'm not a big advocate of having to add fertilizer for our cover crops. We can, but I'm trying to first and foremost sequester and hold on to the nutrients we have left over in the field. So I just feel like rye is a little better scavenger. But if wheat is in your rotation and you have a concern about termination because of having volunteer cereal rye in your wheat, then I think wheat is a consideration. If someone said, if they were really concerned about that, especially if they're growing seed wheat, I as much as I love cereal rye and think it is good to have a different species in the rotation, if you said, I can plant wheat as a cover crop ahead of my soybeans, or I can plant nothing, I'd say, well, plant wheat. You're still holding the soil, you're holding on to nutrients, you're still getting a lot of benefits. You may not have that same edge on the weed control and scavenging and the same growth, but you're still providing a lot of benefit. And that is, I think, a real concern. If you can terminate at or before flowering on that cereal rye and can get out and plant, I don't see, you're not going to have the seed production issues and having volunteer rye issues. But if you have a lot of acres or if you have seed wheat fields that you know are going to be in rotation, that you have extra reason to be concerned with having volunteer rye, just keep that wheat option in mind as you make some of those management decisions. So this is just some research we did from the other year, and it just shows looking in the spring, this is what some of our cereal rye and things can do. So you can see in the picture here, we have the photo on the left has basically a no-till field, corn stubble, had no cover crop in it. You can see we have, this is about flowering time or a little after on cereal rye. That side you have lots of weeds, lots of water hemp especially. You go to the other side, the photo on the right has a cereal rye field. This is side by side, same day. you can see virtually no, I would say 98% no water hemp at all in that area. And then if you look towards harvest, this kind of gives you an idea if you hadn't done any further management. In this case, we just sprayed Roundup. We didn't have anything to kill those emerged water hemp very well. This is what you end up with. So you can see again, left half of the field, you have some very water hempy soybeans, and you did get a few strays on the right side, but remember we didn't have a really aggressive any management program in there that would kill those water hemp. So if there was any strays that were there at planting, we didn't kill them and they still came up, but we got easily well more than 50 or 60% weed control strictly by that cereal rye. So just a great thought and image as to try to justify to yourself why, you know, even a basic planting of a wheat or a rye cover crop could benefit your soybean production. So getting started into this, some things that I have recommended to people, you know, even just oats and oilseed radish. I really like to mix radish. If you do use one of those radishes with oats, I think they just make a good partner together. They're all winter killed, and so that's they're easy to plant into, especially for corn. So that's a great place to start. As we go to up a little bit from that, you know, mixing some oats with some crimson clover. This is especially things that you can get them planted here in the next week or so. So within the month of September in Southern Illinois, I think you could get at least some benefit from the certainly adding the oilseed radish. Your benefit's going to start to, you know, dwindle every day. And this year, given it's dry, would I lean on that radish too much, especially with a forecast with no rain? I'm not sure. The radish will certainly grow a little bit into some cold, but isn't instantly winter kill, but will die at, you know, maybe that 22 degree mark, similar to the oats. So the crimson clover will, you know, kind of establish and survive. And this is a few examples in that range. Cereal rye, it's an easy starter for especially ahead of soybeans. Anywhere I had from 30 to 60 pounds per acre. Some guys might go just a touch lower if you're getting started. Some guys might go a little higher. Another thing to consider is within that rate range. If you're planting cereal rye today, I would say you could go on the lower end of that rate, or could go lower in a seeding rate. If you were going to plant it a month and a half from now in the early parts of November, I would say you need to be, you know, in the 60, maybe even a little above 60 pounds, because you have less time for growth and tillering of those plants to get some biomass started. So that's with any cover crops. You know, your seeding rates can tend to be a little bit lower earlier in the season with more time for fall growth than as you get later. So the next level from some of your oats and cereal rye and some basic ones is the addition of things like Annual ryegrass, hairy vetch, balansa clover, rapeseed, some of the other clovers, and I have, you know, or ... You know, there's, I can't hit all of them, but certainly those are some of the primary ones that guys will go to. And selecting your cover crops based off of your goals. So weed control, nutrients, scavenging, erosion prevention. You know, what is your real goal with these? So the next resource I want to highlight is just this. It's that cover crops decision tool that the Midwest Cover Crop Council has put together. So this is a group of Midwestern states, including a Canadian province, where they've drawn all the cover crop experts in NRCS and Extension and the Soil and Water Districts and other agencies together and tried to provide resources for cover crop selection. So you can find this decision tool at this website listed here, www.mccc.msu.edu. So you can go into this, and I'll give you an example of this if we have just a minute here at the end. You can put in your state and county, and that has specific information and adjust based on your frost dates. Will adjust the different windows for different seeding options. you can add a goal. So you can add up to 3 different goals. It could be erosion prevention, it could be, nitrogen production with legumes, etc. And then it will go through and actually rank these cover crops and give you a 4-to-1 rating of how these cover crops perform. So you can also help to rank and organize your priorities. There's some options here you can see in this screenshot I have. You can display by cover crop type and then group by type. So you can see here it says type grasses. So there's an option there to display that. So you click that and then you can organize them by that if you want to see them that way, or maybe you just want to see them in just a general order, more alphabetically. So that's some things there. How it lists them is the green bar you see there on the calendar basically gives you a window of for that species, when is a reliable time to establish it. So if you get to the yellow part of those bars, you can, but there's risk either for moisture or a freeze potential for those that, you're starting to get to that late window that it may freeze too early for. So that's kind of you can plant them. However, know that there's some inherent risks in that case. So this is a great resource. I'm not going to do justice, even if we look at it online, I'm not going to do justice to all of it, all of the capabilities there. There's lots of other resources on the Midwest Cover Crop Council page. But if you look up selector tool, which is a tab up at the top, that will take you to this, and there's a selector tool for row crops, and then you can go from there. So with that is the main highlights I wanted to hit on. And so for now, I just wanted to, for one thing, open up. Are there any questions anybody has? If not, we might take a quick look at the cover crop selector tool. I can switch screens, but any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourselves, type in the chat, however you want to, if you have any questions about anything or specific situations you want to discuss. I guess we just answered all of their questions then. Now, what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and take just a little bit and look at this selector tool for just a few minutes. I'm going to switch what I'm sharing here. So hopefully now you should be able to see a website. This is the Midwest Cover Crop Council. So this is a homepage to the website, and if you just go right here to the selector tool, there's all kinds of other resources, but this is one we're going to work with. If you go to selector tool, and then we're going to click on the row crop tool. Unfortunately, we do not have a vegetable crop tool in Illinois, although the cover crops are the same. And so that is definitely a cover crop is a cover crop, and the planting dates don't change no matter what crop plant you're putting in there. Before I click on this, note that for a more full tutorial of the decision tool, they have about a 18 or 20 minute video that goes through a tutorial of using it and all the functions. So I'm going to hit on a few. But if you go to this website and have a few minutes, you can listen to a couple of our members talk on the Cover Crop Council that worked on the selector tool, share some of the things to help guide you and all the features it has. So if we go here, I'm going to just pull up, I'm going to click Illinois. And then I'm just going to go down to Monroe County, since that's where I'm at. And we'll go ahead and select a goal just to start with. I'm going to say, and here you can see all the goals from some forage value, soil building, lasting residue, weed management. Those are all different things that you can choose. We're going to choose erosion fighter, since that's one of the things that I've clicked on and talked about today. So you can also do you can put in a cash crop option, so you can select your crop. Some of this doesn't give a lot of further information for you, but it gives you a little window. You can select your planting date, and let's just say it's April 28th, and we harvested. Let's just say we'll do September 10th. And what that does, it gives you just a reminder of that you have a crop in place. As you're looking at these bars, it grays out an area. I'm going to go ahead and click the display cover crop type and the group by type, and then click find cover crops. So real quick, here's what it kind of gives you. It gives you all these options. They're grouped by grasses, legumes, brassicas, just other broadleaves, and then we have a few mixes. You can see this gray bar here represents your current cash crop is growing. So know that if you have that crop out there and you want to plant something, especially here in the tail end, you're going to be looking at some kind of interseeding option. That's all that cash crop does. It just gives you a reminder, a visual reminder of where your cash crop lands with respect to those bars. Again, the green bar gives you a window when you hover over it. The green is the ideal planting range. So in this case, winter barley is one that comes up first. It's saying September 3rd to November 6th is the ideal range for that. Planting in that, so you can see where we're at. You can look down from where we're at, which is late September, and see the things that would fall into that range. You can see here we still have a lot of our clovers, kind of like I was alluding to. I think we still have some time, but we're definitely on the tail end of some of the ideal establishment for some of our clover species. So that's some options here. Again, you have the yellow bars, so those are all highlighted if you want to see the dates when you hover over them. You can also see here, if you click multiple goals, it will give you some ranking. So if you had, say, 3 goals there, you could see as a reminder what all those goals are. Also, if you go to this individual cover crop, you can get and click on that crop itself. It gives you a place you can make basically a fact sheet based on some of the location information. You can click on, it'll generate your information you've submitted, and then it gives you some of your information regarding the type of cover crop this is and the goals that you had. Planting information, it gives some very general ranges for planting and other considerations. Seeding, some ranges for seeding rates, things. Of course, this doesn't go into all the nuances in there. Termination information, performance and roles. So this is more of those goals that you can look at and how this is ranked. Cultural traits, you can see some basic information, minimum germination temperature for soil temperature, if there's any specific soil considerations for it, even some potential advantages and disadvantages. So it hits some of these different topics and where are some strengths and weaknesses, not necessarily things that you would avoid, but things that you want to be thinking about and how you're going to manage this. And you can even go back when you have the ones you want expanded. You can click print this page, and you can give yourself a fact sheet that you can have on hand that gives you all the basic statistics and information on that cover crop for yourself, or if it's a customer or something, it gives you some good baseline information. So that's just a little bit about the cover crop selector tool. So I think with that, do we have any questions from anyone?
Yeah, Nathan.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh Matthews here. Hey, I was just thinking maybe if you wanted to touch a little bit if there's any livestock guys on here as far as putting your rye out, getting your benefit for the cover crop and then turn around in the spring and graze it off, or run a chopper through,
Sure.
extra feed value, winter triticale, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and there we could do probably a whole presentation just on that. But no, one of the benefits, and if you look on the selector tool, one of the benefits that we had and showed you could choose was forage harvest or good grazing, so you could rank them for grazing. Certainly, so that's another resource I wanted, since that was kind of on my mind. But yeah, certainly cereal rye, the triticales, the annual ryegrass, some of the clovers, especially if you're really wanting a lot of biomass, guys using some like the Balanza clovers, I've heard makes really high quality forage, and certainly from experience, if you let it go, it will make a lot of tonnage and some good quality there. So certainly the option to plant something, even just cereal rye or some of these others, there's a lot of good palatability. These grow later in the spring, especially if you can manage your grazing. So if you're grazing them anyhow, that you can let them grow up for a while and not have the cows or any livestock out on them all winter long. Kind of manage it, let them grow a little bit, and then let them out. You can get a lot of early biomass that could either be, again, it could be grazed. You could also, bale it, chop it, do whatever you want as some good early biomass in the spring, and then have time. In a lot of cases, probably you could even go in and plant corn. Certainly soybeans, there's plenty of time. A lot of that depends on your timing for forage harvest in the spring, but certainly the forage options on some of these cover crops and the extra that you can get out of it, even if you just had some different paddocks and pastures that you could keep cows off of, and even if you just supplemented some rye into especially a thinner stand of a pasture stand, that could really bulk some of the extra feed value you can get off of that, especially early in the spring. It never ceases to amaze me how much you can gain from that, and you really don't have just a ton of inputs and costs to add that in there. So no, that's a great point. If no one else has any further questions, I certainly appreciate you guys jumping on. I'm always happy to field any further questions. I had my contact information up, and I'll throw that back up as we end here. So we appreciate you guys joining us today for this kind of somewhat informal kind of chat and talk about some different things to consider here this fall. Hopefully for our cover crop's sake, here in a few weeks, we can at least get some rain, but I guess for now, let's try to get all of our crops out of the field while we can and while we have some dry weather. But we do need, hopefully, get some rain, especially in Southern Illinois, to get some good growth off of some of these cover crops. So with that, have a happy harvest, and we will talk to you all later.